Pops, car dealers are getting nervous. We have new data that backs up that sentence. And I think with really good reason, Dad, now more than ever before, dealers have threats, lots of threats, existential threats, internal threats, threats from all angles. I don't know if car dealers make it out of the 2020s, Dad, and their sentiment, they're saying they're not feeling so hot either. Did you read the latest news in automotive news?
I did read the dealer sentiment survey, and dealers are not as positive about the next quarter or the next 6 months as they had been in the previous survey. And there were a number of reasons for it, some of which apparently pose an existential threat, and they could end up going the way of the dinosaur. I can't wait to see like a mock-up of an automobile dealership in the National History Museum, Natural History Museum.
It may be coming sooner than you think, Dad. I think dealerships, not only do they recognize some of the challenges they face in the future because of the political climate, the likelihood that they get inventory levels that they want, all of those things, but Dad, there are also very real concerns with dealers that bought a heck of a lot of used cars at overvalued prices. Watch our latest used car value video to know that they're sitting on inventory that's not worth as much as it was before. They're going to take a big loss there. We have the FTC rules, which we're going to keep beating that drum until September 12th, the last day for public comments. So some of their shady practices for those shady dealers are being fought back against. And Dad, the OEMs, there's a bit of a push to want to go direct to consumer. We see more and more kind of rumblings like, hey, Ford Model E, we might want to sell without inventory, or the price is the price. So I think dealers, rightfully so, their sentiment should be going down. The likelihood that they last for decades more, I think, is becoming more in question each day.
Well, I'm sure they'll make it out of the 2020s.
Yes, I agree with that.
And my supposition is they'll probably make it out of the 2030s and perhaps even the 2040s. But they might change. And a couple of the reasons for dealers not feeling as optimistic about the future as they had been: the ongoing inventory shortages. Those concerns are real, and there doesn't seem to be anything on the horizon that indicates that's going to change anytime soon.
Yep.
Dealers are fearful about the economy. There are some real concerns that we could end up in a recession, and that's weighing heavy on dealers' minds. And then the third thing that's really striking a little bit of fear in dealers' hearts at the moment are rising interest rates. As we all know, the cost of cars has gone up dramatically, or as somebody once said, the cost of cars is too damn high. But when you add increasing interest rates on top of it, when you consider that probably 90% of all people that buy a car finance them, it makes the cost of financing a car go up. So it's like almost the perfect storm. A shortage of supply, demand is still somewhat strong, additional dealer markups, a suspect economy, and interest rates that are going higher and higher means that, well, ultimately there'll be less people to sell to, fewer people to sell to in the future who can actually afford what those prices and interest rates will equate to on a monthly basis.
Everything you just said, plus OEMs are rumblings of going towards wanting to sell direct to consumer or price is the price. That's more pressure on the dealership model. Plus FTC rules and regulations that want to remove some of the tried and tested ways to make extra profit. Plus, we also then have used car inventory that is sitting on a dealership's lot that they're going to lose tens of thousands of dollars on if they don't move it quickly. I mean, I don't want to say it's a bit of a perfect storm, and you could call what happened with the pandemic a bit of a black swan event, but I wonder, Dad, what goes up must come down. Like, I feel like there are more pressures than before on a car dealer. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see even more consolidation in the industry, because I bet you some dealerships are going to be feeling it pretty bad. All those profits they were making last year, that's going to go away.
So you're thinking about selling your car. Go to joinyaa.com/sell and just enter the information once and get all the offers in one place. It's just that simple. Well, these are pressures that dealers haven't had to confront in quite some time, especially the interest rate pressure. the Fed kept interest rates at close to zero for how many years? 3, 4, 5 years before they started gradually increasing the Federal Reserve rates. If you haven't been a dealer for a very long time, yeah, this is new territory for you. But the automobile business, at least in the 43 years that I was in it, has always been cyclical. There have always been ups and downs. The good people, the good business people that own dealerships, that understand cycles, they know how to survive those cycles. Newer people who might not have experience with that might find it a tad bit more difficult, and they might be a tad bit more pessimistic about the future. Yes, there's a lot of pressure. The pressure from the OEMs, the pressure for having overpriced inventory, overvalued inventory, the pressure with the economy, the pressure with interest rates, the pressure with demand starting to lag a little bit, and excuse me, and the pressure of having inexpensive enough vehicles for the vast majority of Americans to buy. So, yeah, I think we'll see some changes in how dealerships operate. I think if the FTC rules go into existence, I think that could actually help dealerships because it levels the playing field for all dealerships and consumers alike. So I think I would, if I was a dealer, I would look at those rules as a net positive. The shady dealers are going to look at it as a net negative. But yeah, I think dealerships could be going by the wayside, just not anytime soon.
Let me share something with you, Pops. This comes from an industry firm. That's all I'll say. Automotive Retail Risk Assessment, mapping the potential threats to the automotive market. And you can see, Dad, on this matrix, they have the probability of something happening and the consequences if that were to happen, from minor to significant. And you can see, we'll focus over in the top right quadrant, Dad, because that's where things have the probability of happening, they think, and the most significant impacts. Connectivity and over-the-air updates. That's going to change aspects of how the dealership operates. Servicing of vehicles. They think that's likely going to have major impacts on the dealership. Software subscriptions, another big impact on dealers. Electric vehicles, margin compression, OEM direct selling / agency model, and F&I regulation over here with serious consequences. And they only think a 40 to 60% likelihood of happening. So you see stuff like this being produced by the industry, Dad. They're doing their own risk assessment mapping, and they see a lot of change, I think, happening in the near future. So I think the Cox Automotive Dealer Sentiment Survey, yeah, the fact that we're starting to see people who were getting fat and happy start to come back down to reality, I think that's a reflection of the market changing. And quite frankly, when the market changes from where it had been to where it's going, that's better for consumers. It's more of a buyer's market. And I think as consumers, we need to continue to stay patient, but things should get better for us sooner than later, would be my expectation.
Things are always cyclical, and so yeah, the cycle will come around to where the pendulum swings back to consumers. It had been a buyer's market for years and years and years. There was a ton of incentives. Manufacturers needed to encourage customers to go buy cars, and there were ways to save money. And now there's a shortage, and so the prices are high. Will we get back to the point where there's more inventory than buyers? Probably at some point, but not to the same levels that we were at pre-pandemic. And so the pendulum will swing back in the consumer's direction at a certain point in time. And then that'll change dealerships' perceptions as to what they would expect the future to hold as well.